In fact, a young but a renowned scholar, a very good researcher, a person having a very sound understanding of philosophy. Basically, his specialization is in Western philosophy, but he has a very sound knowledge of Indian philosophy as well. So, my friends, if you see Indian knowledge system, somehow it is derived from philosophical foundations. In fact, the whole of Indian knowledge system lies somehow on the philosophical foundations. So that's why, I mean, the moment I designed the syllabus of this particular workshop, so I wanted to keep one topic related to this philosophical foundations of IKS. And the moment I searched so many resource person, so somehow my search was ended on Dr. Aquil Ahmad. I thought he will be the most suitable person to do the needful. So he's a research fellow of Indian Council of Philosophical Research. He has published numerous papers in various national and international journals, guided so many research scholars, and of course, he has so many publications as well. Besides that, a very passionate and a very good teacher. So I think philosophy is something very difficult to understand. And if a teacher is passionate, only then we can understand philosophy. So Dr. Akil Ahmad, I'm sure, will be able to do the needful. And though his CV is quite lengthy and it will be requiring a lot of time, but I am just relying on these few words. And with these words, I would like to hand over the session to our resource person, our guest, Dr. Akil Ahmad, head the Department of Philosophy, Aligarh Muslim University, Aligarh. Sir, it's over to you.
Thank you, Professor Sajid Jamal Saab, for this generous introduction. I am deeply humbled by the invitation rendered to me by the UGC HRDC Aligarh Muslim University to deliver a talk on philosophical foundations of Indian knowledge system. So personally, I extend my sincere thanks to UGC HRDC AMU Aligarh and to the coordinator of this program, Professor Sajid Jamal Saab. I also welcome all the participants from all over the India, all from the every nook and corner of the country in this induction program on the Indian knowledge system. Just few days back, Professor Sajid Jamal Saab has extended his invitation to me, and I was happy, in fact, to be associated with this UGC HRDC. I must share here with all the participants that this is my first talk at this platform, but I was very much associated with this UGC HRDC in the capacity of as a participant of various programs. So I have done my induction program from this UGC HRDC, earlier known as UGC Academic Staff College. Then I have done 2 of my research refresher courses from this UGC HRDC, and of course 1 induction program also when I got an appointment in this university. Because earlier I was not associated with this university, I was in Jharkhand under Ranchi University. So this place is like my home, and I once again extend my thanks to HRDC and the coordinator of this program. So coming to the topic of today's talk, Indian philosophical foundations of Indian knowledge system. So I have designed a few slides for the audience for their better understanding. As Professor Sajid has said, I'm not a man of Indian philosophy, but I have a little interest in this area of Indian philosophy. So I have consented to deliver a talk on this topic. So first I will talk about the importance of Indian knowledge system. So we have a rich repository of knowledge, and I welcome this UGC program, especially under the NEP, that tries to revive the Indian knowledge system through these kind of exercises, of which this is one of that, this induction program for faculty members. So the pursuit of knowledge, which is known in Indian perspective as Gyan or wisdom, pragya, and truth, was always considered in Indian thought and philosophy as the highest human goal. So we have always, the Indian tradition, Indian knowledge system has always tried to, tried a search for the knowledge, wisdom, and the truth, and which is very much there in the Indian philosophical thought. Indian culture and philosophy have been a strong influence on the world. The rich legacies to world heritage must be nurtured and preserved for prosperity and researched, enhanced, and put to new use through our educational system. This I have quoted from NEP guidelines, NEP module, page number 4. So we have a very strong, rich legacy of knowledge system, which needs to be preserved, researched, and of course to be further extended through this NEP system or NEP program. So all stakeholders should be exposed to common underlying philosophical foundations of various disciplines that are part of Indian knowledge system. And the foundational texts of Indian philosophies and Indian religious sampradayas, from the Vedic period to the Bhakti traditions of different regions, may be incorporated into Indian knowledge system. So this is the important, this is about the importance of Indian knowledge system, why Indian knowledge system is required, especially when we have a Western world order, a Western hegemony, a Western hegemonization of knowledge. So in that context, we need a revival and resurfacing of Indian knowledge system at the academic level. Objectives of Indian knowledge system. What is the main objective of Indian knowledge system? So Indian society is a treasure trove of knowledge gained over thousands of years and manifested in the form of art, tradition, literature, customs, language, architecture, etc. So our knowledge system is not confined to just one area. It is very much manifested throughout in the legacy of thousands of years in various fields of knowledge like art, literature, tradition, and other areas of knowledge also. The NEP 2020 lays a special emphasis on the promotion of Indian languages, arts, and culture, and tries to integrate Indian knowledge system into curriculums at all levels of education. So it is not just a revival, rather it lays emphasis on the promotion of Indian languages, art, culture, and there is a need for, or there is a, it tries to integrate it into the curriculum of at all academic levels. In order to facilitate a seamless integration of Indian knowledge system with modern subjects, UGC has come up with training and orientation of faculty with IKS. So this is very much what we are doing, because without the orientation of the faculty members, the respected teachers from different domains and different disciplines, this task cannot be succeeded. The objective is to inspire the faculty in higher education institution of the country to generate a positive attitude, explore and undertake quality research on Indian knowledge system, and herald a new era in higher education ecosystem of the country in the light of the NEP 2020. So basically, NEP 2020 gives us, we the academician, an opportunity to generate a positive attitude, an exploration with new perspectives in the different knowledge with the Indian knowledge system. The purpose of this program for teacher training during the induction program is to provide a roadmap to familiarize and enthuse faculty about the Indian knowledge system and identify strategies to incorporate it into their specific classroom teachings. So basically, we have a divergent group, divergent disciplines. So purpose of this program is to orient them, a kind of orientation, to infuse them a positive energy, you can say, to synergize these aspects into their own specific areas, and of course for the benefit of the students. So coming down to the our main topic of the talk, the philosophical foundation of Indian knowledge system. Basically, I will try to give you an overview, not in detail, but a kind of overview about the how Indian philosophical systems has shaped and influenced, and you can say very much it is integrated into the other disciplines of Indian knowledge system or Indian knowledge tradition. So I will try to explain it in the domain of philosophy. So first I will try to define, because here we have a heterogeneous group, maybe someone from the philosophy background, but the various people will be from different backgrounds of different departments. So I will be giving a overview and introductory aspect of what is philosophy. So first I will define philosophy, general definition about the philosophy. So basically philosophy is defined as a area of discipline which is known as the love of wisdom. So basically we deal with the higher kind of knowledge in which we try to accomplish the wisdom, the highest knowledge in any area of any domain of areas, any domain of knowledge. So place of philosophy in Indian knowledge system. In place of philosophy in Indian knowledge system, as I said, philosophy is a foundational subject. Philosophy provides foundation of every discipline. So the philosophical knowledge, the philosophical wisdom can be applied in other areas of knowledge like science, literature, cosmology, medicine, agriculture, politics, and many more areas. Because it is foundational, it provides a foundation. In Indian perspective, we have a different and distinct kind of definition of philosophy. In Indian tradition, we define philosophy as darshan. So darshan is something, a kind of highest knowledge, a kind of realization of truth, a kind of a spiritual realization of truth, because in Indian tradition, knowledge is not confined to this material world. Rather, we also search for the knowledge about the metaphysical world also. So in Indian tradition, in Indian philosophy, we define philosophy as darshan. Darshan, the realization of highest truth, the highest wisdom. Coming down to Vedas, because Indian philosophy, the root of Indian philosophy is Vedas. So Vedas is considered as the one pillar of Indian philosophy, one foundation of Indian philosophy. So, along with Vedas, we have three pillars of Indian philosophy, which is known as Upanishad, Brahma Sutra, and Bhagavad Gita. And this is known as Prasthantraya. In Sanskrit, this is known as Prasthantraya. So Prasthantraya includes three pillars, which is three foundations of Indian philosophy. The Upanishad, which is part of the Vedas, and Brahma Sutra, which is a commentary on the Upanishad, the first commentary on Upanishad by sage Badrayana, and the very popular religious text, the Bhagavad Gita. Upanishad is if we consider the Vedas, we all know that there are four Vedas, and each Vedas is divided into different sections: mantras, brahmanas, aranyak, and Upanishad. So Upanishad is why Upanishad is so important for philosophers or for Indian philosophical tradition, because in Vedas, which is divided into different parts and different sections, but Upanishad is that section of Vedas which is full of philosophical contents. So that's why Upanishad is known as the cream of the Vedas. It is the repository of the knowledge. It is the treasure house of the knowledge. So, for the background of Indian philosophy, Upanishads are very important. Likewise, coming down to Bhagavad Gita. So Bhagavad Gita being a religious text and a historical background, it also provides a foundation for the development of Indian philosophical tradition. Because in Vedas, in Bhagavad Gita is a text which is full of philosophical content which emerge in the dialogue between the Lord Krishna and Arjuna. So mainly from philosophical background, we discussed the ethical aspect of Bhagavad Gita, the Karma Yoga of Bhagavad Gita. Then we have a third pillar or third foundation of Indian philosophy, which is Brahma Sutra. So Brahma Sutra is the first commentary, the first bhasya, which is written on the Upanishads. I missed the mentioning of about the Upanishad that in Indian tradition, it has been said that there are more than 100 Upanishads. But due to historical reasons, we have what is available before the commentators. It is around 12 or 13 or 14 Upanishads. So the Badrayan, sage Badrayan, Rishi Badrayan was the first figure who tried to give a comprehensive commentary or bhasya on these Upanishads, which is compiled as Brahma Sutra. So Brahma Sutra is also considered as one of the important, you can say, source of Indian philosophical traditions. Next slide is based on Indian philosophical system has been divided mainly into two categories. We have a system of philosophy which is known as Sampradaya, different Sampradaya of Bharatiya Darshan. So this is known as system or the school. So we have divided, the philosophers have divided these schools under two categories, broadly under two categories. One is orthodox, Astic school, and another is heterodox or Nastic school of Indian philosophy. So in this Astic and Nastic is not based on the acceptance of God or the existence of God. Rather, these Astic and Nastic traditions are divided on the basis of their acceptance of authority of Vedas. So those schools who have accepted the authority of Vedas, they are known as orthodox or Astic school. And those schools who doesn't accept the authority of Vedas, they are known as heterodox or Nastic school. This must be clear. So here it is not based on the existence of God. Normally, we call Astic those who believe in God and Nastic those who doesn't believe in God. But in Indian philosophical tradition, this Astic and Nastic division is based on the acceptance of the authority of Vedas or non-acceptance of the authority of Vedas. So the first set of school, which is known as Shad Darshan, or six orthodox school of Indian philosophy. The first is Sankhya, and in bracket, I have written the founder of this school. So Sankhya is founded by Rishi Kapil. Second school is Yoga, which is founded by Rishi Patanjali. And the third is Nyaya school, which is founded by Maharishi Gautam. And the fourth one is Vaisheshik, which is founded by Kanad. And the fifth is Mimamsa, which is also known as Purva Mimamsa, which is founded by Jainini. And the sixth, which is known as Vedanta or Uttar Mimamsa, which is known as, which is founded by Badrayan, Rishi Badrayan, which I have mentioned earlier. Coming to the first school of Indian philosophy, because this is a very broad school, but I will just give an overview of their philosophy. So the first school is Sankhya, which is founded by Kapil, and Sankhya school is the considered as one of the oldest school of Indian system, and it is dualistic school. Dualistic means it believes in two realities, and these realities are Prakriti and Purush, which I have mentioned under fundamental concepts. So Prakriti is something, the material cause of the universe composed of the three gunas. So this Sankhya school tries to explain the whole cosmos, the whole reality, the whole creation through these two concepts or through these two realities. And that's why it is known as dualistic Dvaitvad Sampradaya. So Prakriti is the first, which according to Sankhya school is the material cause of the universe. So to understand it like that, Prakriti provides the matter. It is the material aspect of the creation. And Purush, which is the individual soul or consciousness, and it is distinct from Prakriti. It has its own independent existence. It provides the conscious aspect of the creation. So here you will see that through this combination of these two realities, which is known as Prakriti and Purush, this creation occurs according to Sankhya school. Okay. So they have also given a process of creation, which is known as the evolution of universe. And this in this process of evolution, the universe evolves from the interaction of Prakriti and Purush. So according to them, when these two realities, two independent realities, the Prakriti and Purush interact with each other, the creation starts, the universe evolves. And there is a process. They talked about the homogeneous state, heterogeneous state. So under homogeneous state, and there comes these three constituents of Prakriti, these three qualities, three gunas, which I have mentioned below, the Sat, Raj, and Tam. So these Sat, Raj, and Tam are in the state of equilibrium, in the static state under the homogeneous state of evolution. And when Prakriti interact with the Purush, then that equilibrium disturbs and that equilibrium breaks. And then process of creation starts. So this is a kind of very scientific explanation of uh, evolution of the universe or the process of creation, which is given by the Sankhya school way back more than 2000 or more than 2000 years back. So the process of creation is because of this interaction of Prakriti and Purush. So one material aspect is provided by the Prakriti, and this you can say the force, energy, consciousness aspect provided by the Purush. But independently, distinct from one another, they cannot start the creation. Unless they both interact, this creation will not start, and things will be in the state of equilibrium or in a state of static. Staticity will be there. And when these two will interact, this staticity will disturb. And that disturbance is known as the evolution. So we can say it harkat, a kind of halchal. So through this interaction, a harkat and a halchal starts and the process of creation starts. So these three gunas are also there. They talked about these three gunas, and this is the constituent of Prakriti, Sattva, which is represented by purity, knowledge, harmony, Rajas, which is represented by passion, activity, and relentlessness, and Tamas, which signifies ignorance, darkness, and inertia. So these all three ingredients are very much there in the Prakriti. Sankhya Yoga, basically, these six schools are allied schools. So we normally call Sankhya Yoga, Nyaya Vaisheshik, Mimamsa, and Vedanta. So these are the allied schools. The allied school of Sankhya school is Yoga. So these two philosophies are linked together. Sankhya Yoga is the path of liberation by understanding the self and the material world. And for them, liberation is achieved when the individual soul, which is Purush, realizes its distinctness from Prakriti. So this applied to both on every individual soul, individual self, when we realize that we are distinct from both Prakriti and Purusha are distinct realities, this state itself is known as the state of liberation or moksha. And they also talk about freedom from suffering and rebirth is the goal. So this is all about briefly about this Sankhya school. Next, we are coming to the second school of this orthodox school, which is known as yoga, or which is founded by Patanjali. So this is originally known as yog, but we pronounce it as yoga. And this is, I can surely say, all of you, those who doesn't have any connection with philosophy, they must have also heard about this school, because nowadays this yoga and yoga is very popular not only in India but globally. Rather, we can say that India is represented globally by yoga. It will be not an exaggeration if I say or claim that yoga is one of the ambassador of Indian tradition globally. So yoga is basically a philosophical school of Indian tradition, and uh, the goal of the yoga is attain liberation and self-realization. Yoga means union. In common sense, we can call yoga means union. So the union of individual consciousness with universal consciousness. When the individual self or the individual soul has become united with the universal consciousness, universal reality, which in Indian tradition we call Brahm, the ultimate reality, the ultimate source of everything. So when we realize and connect and become united with that universal reality, universal consciousness, that is the true meaning of yoga. What popularized and what we all follow under the yoga, we follow just one or two aspects of yoga. We don't follow it in totality, because in totality is that it has a very wider philosophy. The Maharishi Patanjali also prescribed Ashtanga Yoga, which comes under its ethical guidelines or ethical philosophy. It provides 8 aspects or 8 steps which every individual uh, try to follow. So it is known as Yam and Niyam, Asan, Pranayam, Pratyahara, Dhyan, Dharan, Dhyan, and Samadhi. So these are the 8 steps or 8 folds, and that's why it is known as Ashtanga Yoga. So under Yam and Niyam, basically Yam and Niyam talks about certain restraint and certain observances which every individual should follow. So Yam includes basically 5 ahimsa, satya, aste, aparigraha, and brahmacharya. So which we should restrain ourselves from these 3 indulgences, from ahimsa, from hinsa, from asatya, from parigraha, from we should follow brahmacharya. So these are the 5 restraints they are talking about. We should follow. And next is niyam. Niyam is certain observances which also supposed to be followed by individual, which is Sach, Santosh, and Tapas. So this is also kind of about cleanliness. It is all about the physical and mental kind of cleanliness. Then we came to asana, which we used to follow and which the yoga gurus normally propagate. So this is the third marg under the yoga school, under Ashtanga Yoga, which is asana. So asana is basically different physical postures. So we all know that there are so many postures, asanas. So for the well-being of our physical health, mental health, as well as for inner peace or inner tranquility. So this is under asana. Next is pranayam. So we also know the pranayam. We also know asana and pranayam very much we all are aware. So asanas are related to your physical postures, and pranayam is related to your breath control, related to your uh, inhalation, exhalation, retention of your breath. So it is all about how to regulate, control, and other kind of technique for controlling your breath for the increase of your life force and vitality. Pratyahar is something, it is withdrawal of the senses from external distraction. So under yoga, we have to also train ourselves, our mind, our senses, to how to control our senses or withdraw our senses from external distraction. Because whenever our master try to teach us the yoga, they always uh, instruct us to focus on certain external object, sometime on your forehead, sometime on your tip of the nose, or sometime on your some external object. So this is under pratyahara. Then it from external distraction, then we come towards the internal distraction. There are also certain internal distractions. So our sense, sometimes we are under samadhi, under some doing some yoga technique, asana or pranayam, and moving towards certain higher stages. So there are certain distractions which come from sometimes from external things and sometimes from our own internal distractions. So this is all about Pratyahar is talking about controlling, withdrawing from those external and internal distractions. Then we come to the final three stages, which is the, you can say, the ultimate aim of the yoga, which is dharan, dhyan, and samadhi. So this is the true and extreme stages of meditation, concentration, and here we imbibe and try, and you can say long for the union, the ultimate union, or the ultimate realization of the individual self with the universal self. So this is all about yoga, what yoga philosophy trying to give us. So right now I am just giving an overview, and finally in the conclusion I will conclude how this school contributed in the development of Indian philosophy as well as Indian knowledge system. I hope you all will be engaged and not getting bored. Uh, so I'm continuing. The third
Yes,
is,
sir. Yes, sir. Okay.
yeah, thank you. The third school is Nyaya school, which is founded by Maharishi Gautam. And this school is primarily concerned with logic and epistemology. Basically, I must say here, which I may have informed you earlier, but I missed somehow. In traditional philosophy, we divide traditional philosophy in so many branches, like epistemology, metaphysics, logic, ethics, and aesthetics. So these are the pure branches of philosophy. So um, this school mainly focus on logic and epistemology. This is a kind of knowledge oriented, how to seek knowledge, how we acquire knowledge, what are the sources of knowledge, what are the valid sources of knowledge. So this school mainly focus on the epistemological and logical aspect. So logic as one sub branch of epistemology. So epistemology we can define in one line. Epistemology is the theory of knowledge, and in this, under this branch of knowledge, we try to study the origin, source, limit of knowledge. How knowledge originate, what are the sources of knowledge, how we achieve knowledge as an individual, what are the limitation of our knowledge, and these kind of questions come under the epistemology. So Nyaya is that is school which focus more on logic and epistemology. So now I'm coming down to their main principles. So they talked about sources of knowledge. The first concern about knowledge, about Nyaya is okay, what are the pramanas, which we call as praman. So praman is basically the valid source of knowledge. There are other sources of knowledge also, but Nyaya considered only the valid source of knowledge, and they accepted four valid praman, four valid sources of knowledge. So according to Nyaya, perception or pratyaksh is the first praman, inference or anuman is the second praman, comparison or upaman, they call it upaman, U-P-M-A-N-A, upaman. So upaman is comparison, knowledge acquired through comparison, and the last one is testimony, verbal testimony. It is also known as verbal testimony. So testimony means shabd praman, shabd, S-H-A-B-D, shabd praman. So knowledge which is acquired through some valid testimonial knowledge. So the first is perception, because I'm not going in details, I am giving just overview. So perception is something which we acquire through perceiving the external object. The knowledge which I acquire or we acquire through our senses. We all know that we have five sense organs, and when these five sense organs have a contact with the external object, the external realities, the knowledge utpan, the knowledge originates. And whatever knowledge we acquire through this connection between our sense organs and the object, this kind of knowledge is known as perceptual knowledge, or the knowledge which is acquired through pratyaksh or perception. Next is anuman. Anuman is inference. So inference comes under the domain of logic. So logic is basically the science of reasoning, in which we do acquire knowledge through systematic rationalization, through systematic reasoning, in which we sometimes make hypotheses, sometimes infer that on the basis of such and such, we acquire a knowledge which is not given before us. So inference is something which is a knowledge created or originated on the basis of certain assumptions, certain hypotheses, certain reasoning, which is based on certain given facts, certain given arguments. And on the basis of that given arguments, we acquire those knowledge which is not given. I am just giving you a classical example of inference or logic. Likewise, we say all men are mortal. So this is the first statement. All men are mortal. Second statement is Socrates is mortal. Socrates is man. Sorry, Socrates is man. So certainly the conclusion will be that Socrates is mortal. If all men are mortal, Socrates is a man, then Socrates is mortal. So this kind of knowledge, this kind of exercise is known as inference. We infer, we draw certain conclusion on the basis of certain given facts. So this exercise is known as inference. So in Indian tradition, in Nyaya tradition, which is primarily logical and epistemological school, they have also accepted Anuman as a valid source of knowledge, which is based on Vyapti. Because of time paucity, I am not going in detail, so I'm just giving superficially. So Vyapti is something which provides a connection, because here in that example which I have given just now, like all men are mortal, Socrates is a man, so Socrates is mortal. So here there is an invariable connection between the man and mortality. We all know those those who belong to the category man certainly will die someday. So there is a necessary connection between these two concepts, the mortality and the man. So on the basis of this necessary connection, we very easily establish that Socrates is also mortal. Okay. So this connection is known as in philosophical term, especially in Nyaya school term, this is known as Vyapti. So Vyapti is something which is considered as the nerve of the logic or nerve of the Tark, nerve of the Anuman, because without Vyapti you cannot establish, uh, draw your conclusion like the fire and the smoke. So there are so many things. So on this basis, we infer. So this is also accepted as one source, one valid praman in Indian tradition, especially in Nyaya school. Next is Tark, which is logic, which I have already discussed, that Nyaya is primarily a logical school, and under this second praman, inference, they have a very clear, developed kind of logic. Let me also say here that in Western tradition, we have a very strong logic tradition of logic, which is developed by uh, Greek ancient thinker, philosopher Aristotle. That's why it is known as traditional logic is also known as Aristotelian logic. So the Aristotelian logic or the Western logic, the Greek logic is very much popularized. But our own, developed by the Nyaya school, Nyaya logic is not so popular globally. But believe me, if you will study the Nyaya logic in detail, you will find that the Indian logic and the Nyaya logic is much more advanced than Aristotelian logic. Because I'm not going in detail, but Aristotelian logic has talked about three kind of statements or three terms. But Nyaya logic has gone beyond that three terms, and they have talked about five panchavya Nyaya. It is known as five-membered syllogism, because these are the technical terms I'm not using deliberately. So syllogism is also part of the logic. So in syllogism, in Aristotelian logic, our Nyaya logic, Nyaya Tark Shastra has gone added two more aspect in that syllogism, and that's why that is known as three-membered logic. The Aristotelian logic is three-membered syllogism, and our Nyaya philosophers are talking about five-membered syllogism, Panch Avyav Nyaya, a syllogism which have five components. Okay. So this is a kind of more advanced than Aristotelian logic. Then they have also talked about the third praman, which is known as comparison. So under comparison, they talked about the knowledge is not just acquired by our senses or through inference, but sometimes we acquire our knowledge through comparing two phenomena or two realities. Suppose I am giving you an example. Suppose someone has not seen guava. Suppose, I know that everybody know what is a guava. It is a fruit. We all have tested it. But suppose it that somebody has not seen guava, and if you depict before him that guava is like pear, the taste of the guava is like this or like this. So by giving so many characteristics of other fruits, certainly by this comparison, he will understand, oh, guava is like this. Okay. So the classical example which is given by Nyaya school is the traditional cow and the wild cow, the cow and the nilgai. Sorry. So they say if somebody has not seen a wild cow, by comparing or by or giving illustration of the cow, he will certainly or she will certainly know that what is a wild cow or a nilgai. So this they have also included in their epistemological program this aspect of comparison, comparing between two similar kind of realities, similar kind of phenomena. So this is also considered as one praman, a valid praman or source of knowledge. The fourth praman, according to Nyaya, is testimony or Shabd praman. So Shabd praman means, because I said very earlier that these all schools are accepting the authority of Vedas, and we all know the Ved are the ancient literature. Sometimes it is also known as Brahmavani. It has no creator. It is the transcendental things. So likewise, they have also accepted the testimony, the authority like the Vedas and the other authoritative books or any source of knowledge which came down through Aap Purush. They call it Apt Purush. So Apt Purush means the one who has the authority, the one who has the mastery on that discipline or the subject or that domain of knowledge. So whatever knowledge came down through some Apt Purush, some knowledgeable person, some knowledgeable source of uh, scripture or text, that is also considered as valid source of knowledge. So this is the fourth praman according to Nyaya school. So these are the other aspects like epistemology I have dealt in detail, metaphysics. Nyaya argues for the existence of transcendent, eternal reality beyond the physical world, believe in the existence of. So I am skipping these aspects because of the paucity of time. I am moving to the next school. This is Vaisheshik school. So again, I will say that this school is also allied with the Nyaya Vaisheshik. Nyaya and Vaisheshik are the two allied schools. So Vaisheshik school is mainly a school which talk about atomism, and they believe in 7 categories. So they believe in Pramanus, atoms as the fundamental building block of the universe. So see, um, in ancient Indian tradition, a school which is known as Vaisheshik school, they are talking about Pramanus, the atoms, which some of you from chemistry background may be dealing with in a very detailed way. So at that time, our own philosophers, rishis, they are talking about this atomic theory, and they accepted that this minutest particle, which we known as, which we call atom or pramanu, anu, this is the fundamental building block of the universe. So in sync with the Western Democritian atomic theory, they are also talking about the similar kind of explanation of the universe or the reality of the universe, which has atomic dependence. It originated from the minutest particle, which is known as the atom or Brahmanus. They classified all existence into 7 categories. They are famous because of these 7 categories, which is known as Padarth. And these 7 categories are noted down below as substance, quality, substance or drav, quality or guna, action or karma, generality or samanya, particularity or vishesh, inherence or samavaya, and apart from these 6 positive padarthas, they have also incorporated one negative padarth, which is known as non-existence or abhav. So this is the speciality of this Vaisheshik school, and It has wider relevance. It has contributed to the understanding of reality, ontology, and cosmology. Their main scriptures are Vaisheshik Sutra and Vaisheshik Pravachan Sutra, and it has influenced and impacted significant impact on Indian philosophy and especially the Indian science. जो भारत Indian Vigyan is very much based on this description of 7 categories which is provided by Vaisheshik school. So I'm moving forward. Next is Mimamsa or Purva Mimamsa school, which is founded by Jaimini. So this is because there are two last orthodox school, which is Mimamsa and Vedanta, and one is known as Mimamsa, that is Vedanta, and one is this is also known as Purvamimamsa because when you study, scholars has divided Vedas into 4 parts: Mantra, Brahman, Aranyak, and Upanishads. So Mantra and Brahman is very much devoted to the religious and ritualistic practices. How to utter a hymn, how to utter a mantra, how to perform a religious yag, or like these kind of things. So there are 2 kind of division. One is known as Karma Kand and another is Gyan Kand. So the mantra and Brahman portion of Veda comes under Karma Kand, and Aranyak and Upanishads come under the Gyan Kand. So Karma Kand is basically focusing on ritualistic and religious practices. And Gyan Kand is mainly focusing on knowledge, wisdom, ultimate knowledge aspect. So that's why the nomenclature given by the Karma and the Gyan. So because the Mimamsa school deals with these 2 earlier portions of the Vedas, the mantra and the Brahman, that's why it is called Purva Mimamsa. Purva means pehle, which comes earlier, and Uttar means which comes later. So Vedant or the Gyan Kand comes later. That's why it is known as Uttar Mimamsa, and this Mimamsa is known as Purva Mimamsa. So the scripture is mainly Jaimini's Mimamsa Sutra, also known as Purvamimamsa Sutra, are the foundational texts, and it provides a commentaries on Vedic texts and critical to understanding the Mimamsa perspective. The key concepts of Mimamsa school is Karma, emphasis on the performance of rituals and duties prescribed in the Vedas. Dharma, understanding and adhering to one's duties. And Apurva, an unseen force that connect the performance of rituals with desired outcomes. Rejection of God. We all know that Indian school, as I earlier said, the categorization itself is not on the basis of acceptance or rejection of God. There are certain theistic school also, those who not categorically rejects God, but they don't deal much on this God. So Mimamsa is largely atheistic. It does not place significant importance on the concept of personal God. But here we have to be very careful that Mimamsa is maybe rejecting the God. It may be considered under atheism, but they are not giving significant importance to the personal God. Because when I will come to the Vedanta portion, I will discuss about the personal God and impersonal God. So there are certain schools in Indian philosophy who doesn't believe or lays much emphasis on personal aspect of God, sagun aspect of God, sagun Brahma. And there are certain schools which lays emphasis on sagun aspect as well as nirguna aspect. So this is the believe in the cycle of reincarnation, but liberation is not primary goal as in other schools of Indian philosophy. So this is briefly about Mimamsa school. Now we are moving to the Vedanta school. As I mentioned, this is also known as Uttar Mimamsa. And why it is called Uttar Mimamsa? Because it deals with the highest uh, inquiry based on the Aranyak and the Upanishad aspect of the portion of the Vedas. So it explores the nature of reality, which is known as Brahman, and Atman, which is known as the self. So in Upanishad, in Veda, and especially in Upanishad, there is much discussion on this two realities, which is known as the Brahman and the Atma or Atman. So the individual self and the universal self or the universal reality. Badrayana, which I also mentioned earlier, is considered as the founder of this school because he has written and composed the Brahma Sutra or Vedanta Sutra, which is also considered as the first commentary on Upanishads. So the key concept of this school is Brahman, which is the ultimate reality or universal consciousness, the Atman, which is the individual self, identical to Brahman, Maya, the illusory power concealing the true nature of reality, Moksha, liberation from the cycle of birth and death. There are so many sub-schools under this Vedanta or Mimamsa school, which become more popular. And I must mention here that Vedanta is another school along with Yoga, which is also popular globally. And there are followers and there are so many subsects of Vedanta school, which is propagated and followed by people globally. So the sub-schools of Vedanta is Advaita Vedanta, which is also known as non-dualism, founded by Adi Shankaracharya, which we usually call Shankar. And another is Dvaita Vedanta, which is dualistic school, founded by Madhavacharya. We also call him Madhav. And Vishishta Advaita Vedanta, or qualified non-dualism, philosophy of qualified non-dualism, which is founded by Ramanuja or Ramanujacharya. So mainly these are the schools under Vedanta school. So the broader school is Vedanta, but under this Vedanta school, because of the differences in interpretation of Upanishads, these sub-schools came into existence. And they have their own interpretation of the concept of Brahm, Atman, or the world, or the relation between the Brahm, Atman, and the reality. Because there is a classical discussion in Vedanta, okay, what is the nature of ultimate reality, how the universe or the whole reality, whole Srishti came into existence. And what is the relation of the individual soul or the individual self with the universal reality or the universal soul self, which is known as Brahma, and whether this world is real or it is unreal. So unreal not in physical sense, unreal in the sense of if the ultimate reality is one, then what is the place of this universe? What is the place of this material world? Because see, the philosophy or the philosophers deal with the highest kind of knowledge. They don't talk about the superficial things. They encounter and engage with the highest kind of knowledge. So under these categories, under these discussion, there is distinctions between these three, or and there are other schools also like Shuddha Advait and other Advait, Advait school founded by Nimbarkacharya and Vallabhacharya. So there are other schools also. So we have less time. Otherwise, we can devote one or two lecture on only on the Vedanta school. But I am just giving you a cursory view of these schools. So primarily, these Vedanta schools also talk about three kind of yogas. Three yoga, we all know that three yoga, like Gyan Yoga, Karma Yoga, and Bhakti Yoga, has been also discussed under Indian tradition and Vedic tradition. So, Gyan Yoga is basically the path of knowledge, Karma Yoga is path of action, and Bhakti Yoga is path of devotion. So, some school of Vedanta school, sub schools of Vedanta school has devoted or given prominence to Gyan Marg, some has given prominence to Karm Marg, and some has given prominence to Bhakti Marg. As I must mention it, that Shankaracharya, who has founded the Advaita Vedanta, so Advaita school give more emphasis on path of knowledge, the Jnana, because for them, liberation or salvation or moksha can be attained through Jnana. And so Jnana means when you realize this non-distinction between the Brahma and the Atma. For them, it is all inclusive, all totalitarian, all holistic. Brahma has no duality. So we are part of Brahma. We are not distinct from the Brahma. So that's why you all may be knowing the Vedantic and Upanishadic dictums like Tattvamasi and Am Brahmasmi, that you are that. You are not distinct from the Brahman. So these are the wider philosophical terms. I'm not saying that these are the simple statements. It has a wider philosophical repercussions and implications. So likewise, the Shankar has also said that Brahm Satyam Jagan Mithya Jivo Brahmev Napra. So Brahm is the only reality. Jagan means the world, and the world is appearance. World is apparent, and Jivo Brahmev Napra. So there is non-distinction between the individual self, individual soul, and the ultimate soul. So it is identical. It is not distinct. These are not two realities. Rather, these individual soul and individual realities are very much part of that universal Brahm or universal reality. So this is a very wider philosophy. Likewise, the Karma Yoga is path of action, which is the central idea of the Bhagavad Gita, because in Bhagavad Gita, the Lord Krishna has emphasized on the karma. You must do your karma. You cannot avoid your karma. You cannot run from your karmas, and you have to follow your dharma and swadharma. So these all are connected. And Bhakti Yoga is the Ramanujacharya or the Vishishta Advaita Vedanta, which is also one of the prominent school of Vedanta school. It has emphasized more on Bhakti Yoga. So it doesn't mean that they have rejected the other yogas, but they have given more emphasis on these particular way of devotion or the way of action or the way of knowledge. So they considered it as the media or the medium through which we can realize the ultimate reality, and through that realization we can go ahead for achieving the liberation and moksha. So it has wider influence and implications on other schools, like influence on the religion of Hinduism, particularly in philosophical and theological debates. It continues to shape Indian spirituality and philosophy. As I said, it is one of the very popular school of Indian philosophy, and it has propagated the Indian spirituality, the Indian spiritually embeddedness globally. Okay. we are basically searching for the ultimate reality, and we are very much connecting ourselves in our every domain of life with these ultimate reality. So it has a wider relevance also. Vedanta remains a cornerstone of modern Indian thought and is embraced by people worldwide seeking a spiritual wisdom. So not, this Vedanta school is not just confined to their ages, but in contemporary time, so many Indian thinkers and global thinkers, other Western thinkers, has also revisited this Vedanta tradition, and it has been commented, and it has been written and interpreted by so many thinkers like Vivekanand, Rabindranath Tagore, Sri Aurobindo, Mahatma Gandhi, and so many other thinkers who has given their own commentary on Vedanta school. So this is about the Astic school of Indian tradition. Now I am moving. We are running out of time, so I'm moving towards the heterodox schools, and there are,
ইয়ানি যে আমি বদমাস বুলি কওঁ
dear participant, please mute yourself if it is disturbed. Please. So we are now moving towards the three heterodox schools, which is known as Charvak, Buddhism, and Jainism. So I will try to finish it in 5 minutes. So as I said, there are two set of schools. One is Orthodox school, which is a combination of six just mentioned, and there are these other three groups, three schools of which come under the heterodox school or Gnostic school. And I have said it earlier that Gnostic here doesn't mean that they doesn't believe in God. It is their non-acceptance of the authority of Vedas. Okay. So the first school is Charvak, which is founded by Brihaspati. Charvak is mainly a materialistic school of Indian philosophy. So first time we have a school which is purely explaining the whole reality through matter. So it is a purely materialistic school. It is also known as Lokayata. It rejects the metaphysics which is provided in Vedic tradition. So it rejects the existence of soul, afterlife, and the authority of religious texts. Epistemologically, they also only accept one praman, which is known as pratyaksh or perception. As in the case of Nyaya school, I have mentioned that they believe in four valid sources of knowledge, and not only Nyaya, but mainly all schools of Indian philosophy has accepted the Nyaya pramanas of accepting the four sources of knowledge, except Charvak. Charvak is the only school which doesn't believe other three sources of knowledge, which is Anuman, Shabd, and Upman. They only accept Pratyaksh. And why they accept Pratyaksh? Because they believes in only material world. They don't believe in any metaphysical, supernatural, transcendental realities. Whether this is the reality, whether it is the reality of ultimate reality, which is Brahm, life after death, other kind of things. So it is purely materialistic, hedonistic school. So they denied the karma and reincarnation also. They tried to criticize the religious rituals, sacrifices, and ceremonies, and it provides a kind of hedonistic school. So hedonism is basically a kind of philosophy which emphasizes on the pursuit of pleasure and avoidance of pain as the ultimate source of goal of their life. So being a materialistic school, their only emphasis is to achieve pleasure and avoid pain. So whatever indulgence in which you acquire pleasure, do it, and those things, those creates pain, try to avoid it. So it was a kind of purely hedonistic, um, or you can say Epicurean kind of approach. Okay. But they have their own epistemology, metaphysics, as well as ethics. So ethically, they are propagating hedonistic philosophy, purely materialistic philosophy. They don't believe in otherworldly things, and so many. But because of this material atheistic explanation, this school uh, was a kind of minority school. It doesn't has so many followers, or uh, it doesn't popularize. But this is also one aspect of our Indian philosophical tradition, because Indian philosophical tradition has diverse philosophical schools. We have schools who believe in Vedas, we have a school who doesn't believe in Vedas, we have a school who believes in ultimate realities, we have a school who doesn't believe in ultimate reality, we have a school who doesn't believe in, who believe in spiritualism, we have a school who doesn't believe in spiritualism. So we have a diverse philosophical system, philosophical schools. So now I am moving to the next school, which is Buddhism. So Buddhism, we all know it is a popular religion globally, but it is also one of the heterodox school of Indian philosophy. And we all know it is founded by Lord Buddha, and they have their own epistemology, metaphysics, and other aspects of philosophy also. So primarily they propagate ethics, and under their ethics they have given the suffering or the dukkha as the central place in their philosophy. So I'm not going in detail. We all know. So Gautam Buddha talked about four noble truths: the dukh, dukh samudaya, dukh nirod, and dukh nirod gamni pratipat. So they talked about through these four noble truths. They came to the eightfold path. So eightfold path, Ashtanga Marg. So by following those eightfold paths, you can remove or minimize the suffering in your life. And there are certain technique also, like certain meditation, certain other aspects by which every follower of this school can do. They also talked about dependent origination, a scientific causal theory in which why this suffering occurs. So they have given 12 link causation. So if we remove or break those links, you can remove suffering and you can avoid suffering. And they have also talked about maintaining madhyam marg, which we call moderate or middle way, by overindulgence and over abstinence. So there was a kind of middle way by which you can also avoid so many suffering and so many dukh. And it is originated in India and spread in all over world globally. So this is also one heterodox school of Indian philosophy. And lastly, we have Jainism. So Jainism is also a popular religion, originated in India, but it is also a school comes under the heterodox school of Indian philosophy. So Jainism basically believes in 24 Tirthankars, and Vardhaman Mahavir is considered as the last Tirthankar, the 24th. So technically, not he is the founder of Jainism, but we are considering him as the last Tirthankar and the one who tried to systematize the whole philosophy of Jainism. So primarily, Jainism has also their own whole holistic philosophy, epistemology, metaphysics, ethics, all aspect of cosmology, all aspect of philosophy, uh, emphasizing more on ahimsa, satya, aste, brahmacharya, and aparigraha. They have their own cosmological belief. They have, but philosophically, two concepts are very popular. One is anekantvad and syadvad. So these are interlinked concepts. Anekantvad is basically manyness of reality, believing in manyness of reality. And Syadwad is the believing in multifaceted or relativistic approach to knowledge. So basically, this is the hallmark of their philosophy, that they have provided not unidimensional, one dimensional, rather they have given multiple dimensional relativistic perspective to understanding any reality. You all may have aware, may be aware about the very classical story of the elephant and the 5 or 6 blind persons, uh, visually impaired person. So you all may be aware about that story. So that gives the clear picture of the Jaina theory of knowledge. Partially, they all are true. When one visually impaired person, by touching or catching the tail, said that, oh, elephant is like a rope, or the visually impaired person who touched the ear of the elephant has said that, oh, elephant is like a hand fan, and one who has touched the body of the elephant has said that, oh, it is like a wall. So partially they all are true, but holistically they all are not true. So Jaina, Syadvad and Anekantvad is like this basically. Okay, we partially we can uh, realize or attain the reality. Uh, so it is multifaceted, relativistic, multiple perspective kind of approach in their reality. So by this approach, it is a kind of accommodating the other perspective also. It is accommodating the other viewpoint also. So in that way, it is a very providing a very positive kind of philosophy in our personal domain and in our worldly social domain also. So finally, I have tried to give you an overview of all 9 schools of Indian philosophy, and I am skipping this. So let me conclude the takeaway of this philosophical foundation of uh, Indian knowledge system by giving a very short overview of the 9 schools of Indian philosophy. You may have realized or observed that each school is providing a different kind of worldview. Some school is emphasizing on logic, epistemology, some on metaphysics, some on ethics, some on aesthetics also, because you all may be aware the Indian aesthetics, Bharatiya Saundarya Shastra, especially the works of, I'm forgetting right now, the text, which is very popular text for to understand that Indian aesthetics. So in every domain of knowledge, these philosophical schools have not only contributed, rather it has shaped the Indian knowledge system. So it, through the various aspect of knowledge, which we call the Indian knowledge system, whether it is science, architecture, archaeology, literature, aesthetics. So everywhere, the philosophy, Indian philosophical schools has provided a kind of foundation, a foundation to all discipline on which they flourished, and they have uh, founded their own buildings, their own edifice. And it also provided and built a moral, spiritual, and material edifice of Indian knowledge system. So, to work upon, to strengthen, to incorporate, to integrate in any domain of our own discipline with Indian knowledge system, I think the Indian philosophical system or Indian philosophical schools provide a foundation, a basic knowledge upon which every schools or every disciplines flourished. So this is all about from my side. And now I am inviting, if you have any question, any comment, any suggestion, or any kind of inquiry, we have 10 more minutes we have. Thank you so much, all of you, for this patient hearing. And to
Thank you,
the
sir.
coordinator of this program, Professor Sajid Jamal Saab, for giving me an opportunity to interact with all of you, my friends and colleagues. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you, sir, for a very interesting and enlightening lecture. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Sajid sir, you
Thank
are
you,
here.
sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Sajid sir, you are here.
Thank you, sir.
So any question from your side?
Yes, I have a question, sir.
Yes, please.
Sir, my question is that as you have given the example of inference, where it was that all human beings are mortal, all men are mortal, then Socrates is a man, therefore Socrates is mortal.
Yes, yes.
So all these three statements itself are true. So it is easy to determine in this case. Suppose the statement themselves are, debatable,
Yes, yes, yes.
then whether again means in order to derive such kind of statement, whether we will have to follow another method of inference or we will go for deduction. All this inference means induction and deduction, they go hand in hand, practically, or to things which we do not have any fundamental truth.
Yeah, I got you. I got your point. Basically, here, because I have just introduced the one Praman which is accepted by Nyaya school, which is Anuman, which is we can roughly call as logic, because they have also called it Tark Shastra. So Tark Shastra is basically logic. So I have given an example, which is a very classical example, which is very introductory example, you can say. But when you will study logic as a discipline, as a science of reasoning, there are other aspects also. And there are so many difficult and so many other, you have premises on which you have to draw the conclusion. So there are so many aspects, so many other aspects, so many other things, as you already mentioned, deduction, induction, and other aspects of logic, technical aspects of logic. So without understanding and without knowing, we cannot derive the accurate conclusions. So that's why it is called as a science of reasoning, because it is a very broader, very developed areas, and not only traditional logic. You may be aware, nowadays we have symbolic and mathematical logic and other kind of logic like computational logic, and these all artificial intelligence and all these things are based on those traditional things. So I'm not an expert of that area, but that logic is a very vast, very technical, and very detailed study, and it requires lots of time and effort as well. But if you are following all those steps and all those techniques, certainly you can derive and reduce the problems in a logical.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Anyone else? So how many of you are from philosophy background? Anyone from philosophy background in this group?
Sir, I am not from philosophy background. But I have do some interest in philosophy.
Okay, okay, good.
So I have studied something related to Nietzsche, Schopenhauer.
Oh, So lots of you are aware about the Western philosophical traditions.
Yes, because of my area being economics, so from there, what I have got, so I have studied Hegel and all that have some economic writings,
Yes,
not
yes,
directly.
yes, yes. Because philosophy is a foundational subject, as I mentioned. So everywhere in every discipline, here we are confined to Indian tradition. But if you will consider holistically, philosophy interference of philosophy is in every discipline, whether it is economics,
Yes, yes.
economics.
And father of economics, Adam
Yes,
Smith was
yes, yes.
also by profession a professor of
वो reduce
philosophy.
करेंगे, please. इसको reduce करके वो वाले format में ले आइए. Yes, yes. Thank you.
So I was saying even the father of economics, Adam Smith, was a
Yes.
professor of philosophy in Glasgow.
Yeah, and he's also one of the prominent political thinker also.
Yes, yes, yes.
So sometimes
I have read. Yes, I have read his book. The Theory of Moral Sentiment is very difficult book, very philosophical.
no, philosophy as a discipline is little difficult, I will say, because when a philosopher talks, he talks from a different perspective. No. So
Yes,
that time it becomes difficult to understand all the connections. If you are able to connect all these things and then you read that philosopher, then it will be not so difficult. But if you are skipping those points and going direct to their writings, then it will be a very tough task.
yes, sir. Yes, sir. Got it.
So anyone else want to say something or ask something? But I think this initiative is very welcoming, because sometimes uh, we all are engaged with in our own domain, with our own subject, but mainly from the Western perspective. Uh, we are not dealing much with our own Indian traditions, because in your domain, Nayyar Sahab, in economics also, there are so many Indian thinkers, maybe starting, we all know the Aquil and other also. So they may have contributed a
Yes,
lot.
yes.
So we must incorporate and engage with these philosophical and contribution of these thinkers also. So in
Yes,
that
sir. Yes,
way,
sir.
this is a very welcome step taken by the UGC. And I hope
Thank you, sir.
when you people will be, we all us, I am also belonging to the same category. So when we will share all these experiences with our student, uh, a genuine interest among them certainly will be developed.
Thank you, sir.
ठीक है, so if anyone else want to say something, otherwise you have a break for half an hour. Another session will be there, so I also must say bye to all of you. And once again, thank you all of you for this patient hearing. And I'm very happy to meet you all virtually, though I'm not meeting you actually, but we are meeting you virtually. And anytime you have any doubt, any query, if you want to contact me in any way, so my details are there on our department web page. So you can contact me, you can reach me, and we can discuss or engage in more academic way in future. So thank you so much, both of you. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Dr.
sir.
Akhil sir.
Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you,
Uh,
thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, Dr. Akhil sir. On the behalf of the participants, in fact, I'm happy and satisfied that you delivered such an elaborated talk, in fact. And I'm quite sure whatever you have delivered, it will be beneficial for our participants and they will incorporate all those things in their lecture so that a large number of students might be benefited. So thank you once more, and thank you participants for listening to Dr. Akil with patience. So it's time of break, and please have a break, have a cup of tea, and of course join by 6 for another session. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you,
sir.
sir.